My name is Osman Hummaida. I'm the African representative of the Assembly of Delegates of the World Organization Against Torture, and I was the director of Sudan Organization Against Torture. I worked in Darfur since 1998. I monitored, report, and investigate human rights violation in Darfur region since the 90s. We could, together with my colleagues on the ground in Darfur, we published many reports, brief and urgent appeal on the situation in Darfur. I've been to Chad, Eastern Chad, the International Federation for Human Rights. From my monitoring of the human rights situation in Darfur and in Sudan, I would say that I think most of the people have seen and heard and read many reports about the violation there. And I will just going to talk about the recent development in the situation in Darfur, particularly after the United Nations Resolution 1769, which has allowed the deployment of a hybrid troop to Darfur region. I would say this resolution is give some long-awaited hope for millions of Darfuris, but I would equally warn that this troop should be urgently deployed, should be well resourced, and also it must have a human rights component. By that I mean they must have the capacity and the authority and the power to monitor and to investigate human rights violation in Darfur regions, particularly violence against women and children in Darfur. I would say until now, although there is a resolution there, but the Darfur people need action rather than words and promises. There is too many resolutions and words and promises to the Darfuris that there would be protection, there would be peace, and there would be kind at least of accountability for the crime committed in the regions. I think now is the time for that action, and this action is the international community have to ensure that this troop should be deployed immediately, because the government of Sudan, although consent and agreed to this resolution, but has defined the international community and changing their mind, and then the international community have to make sure this resolution should be implemented and should be also enhanced by maybe further resolution, because there is a need to disarm the Janjaweed militia and to demobilize this militia which is causing havoc. There is no clear kind of mentioning of this mandate to the international forces. They talk generally about protection of civilian and monitoring the arms in the region, but there the international troop must have the power and the authority to disarm and to demobilize the militias both in Sudan and Eastern Chad. And this is another question of the situation of the refugee in Eastern Chad. I have been there, talked to many refugees, and when you ask them what is their demand, they clearly said number one, of course, is their protection. Number two, they need kind of compensation for the losses of personal losses of their property, the life of the people they loved. And second things, they ask for accountability for the crime committed against them by the perpetrators, which we know. And also they said they will never return back to their villages while they know that it's still the militia that kill them and cause the displacement, and they're being immigrant or refugees in Chad, the causes are still there. So without the disarmament and effective disarmament and demobilization of these militias, I think no one will go back to their original land, even within the presence of the international troop. So we have to ensure that. Also, people have been very disappointed that this resolution doesn't have a component about the issue of accountability. There is 2 suspects had been indicted by the International Criminal Court, and the government should have to hand over those 2 suspects to the International Criminal Court. Also, we urge that the court should have to continue its investigation. The government of Sudan have to allow investigation from the court to visit their crime scene and investigate the crime committed there, committed in that region, and to help the court to do its work effectively without intimidation and without harassment. There is too many other issues when you come to Darfur. There is no one single solution to it, but it is a complex situation, and the starting of it is the cooperation of the government of Sudan, and that is the international community will is to continue putting pressure on all sides to the conflict, including the rebel groups. The rebel group also is a problem, the militia is a problem, and the government is a problem. And I think embarking on a political process is one of the demand, and I would say peace is the last solution. But before achieving peace, there is many requirements that should be in place, which is the, as I said earlier, including disarmament, and also clearly the peace process should have to consider the human rights component. I think broadly this would be the demand of the Darfurian, and now for the international community to continue pushing into that direction to achieve peace and the security of the civilian in Darfur region.